Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning into my channel, Lens for Christ. My name is John. Thank you for tuning into this series that we are continuing. Is Jesus God? So, in this series, we actually want to address an objection to why somebody says Jesus is not God. I want to go to a verse that is commonly used, and I want to prove that it does not mean what they think it means. So please stay tuned. So this is a very, very common verse that a lot of people come to, like saying that Jesus is not God, and we're going to go ahead and look at it right now in Luke chapter 18, verses 18 through 19. And it says, "And a ruler asked him, 'Good teacher, what must I do to inherit life?' And Jesus said to him, 'Why do you call me good? No one is good except God alone.'" And there we go. It's like, boom, proof. Like, Jesus is not God right there. So what else do you need more? So checkmate. But actually, when you really look into this and you know more about who Jesus is, you will understand this text a lot more. So one thing so there's 3 points I want to point out in here at least. One point I want to look back at the verses. Jesus never says that I am not God here. So, like, you look back at it, it says, "And Jesus said to him, 'Why do you call me good? No one is good except God alone.'" And he doesn't go on to say, like, I am not God. So the second point I want to mention is that Jesus was challenging the rich ruler in his thinking as to why he calls him good. So he was giving him a challenge as in to, why do you call me good? No one is good except God alone. So if he truly viewed Jesus as God, then he would be correct in his thinking in that. But if he was just viewing him just as a man, then he would be incorrect in this. But we do know that Jesus is God. We know that Jesus is good because he is the perfect sacrifice. He is worthy. And so just from that, we know that he is good, and that since that he is good, that he is God. And a third point in here is that it is common for Jesus to conceal his identity and who he is. And I actually want to go to several verses in here where Jesus actually hides his identity from people. And so let's go ahead and start looking at them. One of them is in Matthew chapter 16, starting in verse 15 through 20, and it's about, like, who do you say that I am? So, all right, so beginning, Jesus said, all right, he said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter replied, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." Here we go in verse 20. "Then he strictly charged the disciples to tell no one that he was the Christ." So here in Matthew, you see Jesus is hiding his identity from others. And so another one is where he conceals his identity and who he is at the Transfiguration. So when he met with Moses, Elijah, and a couple of the disciples were with him. And then let's go look at that verse in the book of Mark. Book of Mark, chapter 9, verse 9. "As they were coming down the mountain, he charged them to tell no one what they had seen until the Son of Man has risen from the dead." So right here, you have Jesus hiding his identity again. Well, of course, it was going to be revealed after his death and his resurrection. So another one that we get to see here is when Jesus himself cleanses people from demons, casting out unclean spirits. So you see this as well. So let's go ahead and look at one of those verses, and there are other verses as well in here, but we're just going to look at one of them. Mark chapter 3, verses 11 through 12. And whenever the unclean spirits saw him, they fell down before him and cried out, "You are the Son of God." And here we go. And he strictly ordered them not to make him known. Another one in here is when Jesus, performs miracles, brings healing. He tells them, not to tell anyone that happened, and you get to see this when Jesus healed a girl. And so let's go look at that one as well. So this is towards when he's already healed in Mark chapter 5, verse 43. And he strictly charged them that no one should know this, and told them to give her something to eat. So at the beginning, you see that he strictly charged them that no one should know this. And then a last one that we want to look at, I want us to look at, is in Luke. So let's look at that one. Luke chapter 20, starting in verse 1. One day, as Jesus was teaching the people in the temple and preaching the gospel, the chief priests and the scribes with the elders came up and said to him, "Tell us, by what authority do you do these things? Or who is it that gave you this authority?" He answered them, "I also will ask you a question. Now tell me, was the baptism of John from heaven or from man?" And they discussed it with one another, saying, "If we say from heaven, he will say, 'Why do you not believe him?' But if we say from man, all the people will stone us to death, for they were convinced that John was a prophet." So they answered that they do not know where it came from. And Jesus said to them, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things." So here you got Jesus concealing, hiding that, the authority that he does these things from the scribes and elders themselves. So let's go back, do a quick little summary of everything. So let's go look at the verse that is commonly brought up. Luke chapter 18. And a ruler asked him, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus said to him, "Why do you call me good? No one is good except God alone." So let's summarize the 3 points again. Point number 1, Jesus did not claim that he was not God. Point number 2, Jesus was challenging the rich ruler in his thinking as to why he calls him good. Does he actually realize the implication of what he is saying to him? Point number 3 is that it is very common for Jesus to hide his identity from others. I hope this was helpful, and I hope that we just continually learn and growing as we dive into God's Word. So thank you for tuning in. God bless.